For every Diet Coke, there is a Diet Pepsi. For every Philadelphia Eagles, there is a New England Patriots. And for every top 10 best list, there must be a top 10 worst list. Hello everyone, my name is Ryan Cam, and these are my 10 least favorite movies of 2019. 2019 was an awesome year for movies and had many awesome movies in them. These 10 were not among them. Similar to my top 10 best list, here are some movies that will not be on this list because I either didn't think that they were as bad as everyone made them out to be, or I didn't see them. The Fanatic. I didn't see it, so I can't include it on the list because everyone else said it's hilariously bad. Again, didn't see it. Dark Phoenix. I actually liked Dark Phoenix. It does have a lot of problems, but on the whole, I didn't think it was terrible. It's certainly not as bad as, say, like X-Men Origins Wolverine or one of the other lesser X-Men movies. And finally, Cats. Cats is the popular thing to hate nowadays, and I kind of have a strange appreciation for it. Now, before you all roast me in the comment section, listen to me first. This is a bad movie, clearly. The CGI is terrible, the songs are somehow even worse, and everyone overacts to a cartoonish level. However, I do have a strange level of respect for the commitment that they showed to this, and I somewhat appreciate that. Enough to not include it on my worst of the year list. These 10, however, are dumpster fires, so without any further ado, we've got 10 band-aids to rip off, so let's start ripping. And in case you hear any humming above me, that is my fan, because I know I'm going to get hot, and I am not going to sweat through this elegant sweater vest. Let's begin. Number 10. Starting off at number 10 is one of the more forgettable Stephen King adaptations I've seen in a while, Pet Sematary. Does anyone remember this movie? That's probably for the best. Pet Sematary just felt like it was a capitalization on Stephen King because Stephen King is popular right now. The obvious CGI was obvious, it was too reliant on jump scares, and just on the whole, it felt very boring. At least with It Chapter 2, that movie was so insane that you couldn't look away, kind of like a wreck on the side of the highway. Just with Pet Sematary, if I never see this again, I'll be satisfied. Number 9. Number 9 is the first and definitely not the last Disney live-action remake that will be on my list, and that is Dumbo. When I heard that Dumbo was going to be remade by Tim Burton, I'm like, okay, that sounds like a good idea. I mean, Tim Burton's made some duds in the past, but he's also made some great movies with great amounts of imagination. So maybe he'll rub off some of that imagination into this Dumbo remake. That didn't happen. Any imagination, bright colors at a frickin' circus, believe it or not, are all stripped away and replaced by bad CGI and incredibly dull characters. There was possibly a good thing that could have come out of this movie with the whole subplot of, oh, there's this big park that is run by this rich guy and is buying up all the local acts. That could have been like a quasi-meta commentary on Disney, but unfortunately, it just fell flat on me. It certainly is not the worst Disney movie I've ever seen, but it could have been so much better. Number 8. Then at number 8 is one of the dumbest and silliest horror movies I saw all year, Annabelle Comes Home. Annabelle Comes Home, the only reason why it exists is because the Conjuring universe is a popular thing right now. And that's really about it. The Curse of La Llorona, which also came out this year, was somewhat tolerable because it had an interesting backstory around the ghost and how the ghost haunted. Like, that was cool. But in Annabelle Comes Home, This had one of the single dumbest scripts of the entire year. And it could have been so much better, especially set in the Warren house that's stuffed to the brim with haunted objects. This should have been the easiest movie to make. But instead, it was just dumb decision after dumb decision mixed with crappy effects. The only reason why Annabelle Comes Home exists is to make money. That is the only reason. Number 7. Then at number 7 is Serenity. Like, what the hell was this? Like, I'm honestly asking you, the kind but intense viewer, can you tell me what the hell this movie was about? Something about Matthew McConaughey being trapped in a video game controlled by his son, or I don't know. I just don't know. Not even the talents of Matthew McConaughey, Anne Hathaway, and Jason Clarke could have saved this twist from making any sense, because, yeah, the twist makes no sense. Talk all you want about how bad the twist was in Glass, but at least M. Night Shyamalan tried to make it make sense. It didn't work, but at least he tried. It felt like Serenity was just like, throw a twist on the screen. People will figure it out. Well, I'm still thinking about it to this day, and not in the best way possible. Number 6. Number 6 on my list is Stupor, easily the most boring comedy that I saw all year. Now, in case you think I'm being too harsh, I like Kumail Nanjiani. I think he's one of the funniest men in America, and I love Dave Bautista. Congrats on you going into the WWE Hall of Fame. But they could not save this boring mess of a movie. This just had every single buddy cop movie cliche that has been done from Lethal Weapon up till now. I did something that I never do in movies. I left and I got a drink of water, and I said, you know what, if I left and got a drink of water, I bet the one thing that is going to happen in this movie will happen. I got up, I got my drink of water, I came back, and the thing that I predicted actually happened. I am not a screenwriter, I do not claim to be, but I have seen enough of these buddy cop movies to know how they work. And this movie just did not work. Number 5. Then at number 5 is the second most unnecessary remake that I saw all year, Hellboy. Does anyone remember this movie? Good, because it was terrible. David Harbour tries, but at the same time, he is acting around very bad CGI and just an outright mangling of the source material. I remember the lead up to this movie. People were like, oh, it's going to be edgier and darker than the Guillermo del Toro movies. In an ironic twist of fate, this movie was far more childish than the Del Toro movies. And then the final nail in the coffin was when this movie revealed that Hellboy is the son of King Arthur, and that the big sword that he wields at the end is Excalibur. Just, where do I begin? Like, Harrison, Ryan, like, seriously, where do I begin? Easily the worst comic book movie I've seen all year is Hellboy. Number 4. Now we're getting down to the nitty-gritty, folks. These are the movies that just angered me to no end. Coming in at number 4 is Countdown. This is a movie about a killer app. A killer phone app. I guess I should have expected less, but I try and go see every new release, and I try and give every new release a chance. I have been surprised before, but not this time. Countdown tried to make a very goofy premise legitimate, and it didn't work. At least the Final Destination movies were like, you know what, we're dumb, let's just steer into the skid. Take OTT acting, combine it with laughably bad CGI, and just a story that makes absolutely no sense. Oh, and a quasi-Me Too storyline to add the shit cherry on the shit cake, and you have easily the worst horror movie of the year. Number 3. Number 3 on my list is The Lion King. Now, let me just say this. I do not hate Disney. I'm actually a big fan of Disney. I do not hate the idea of the Disney live-action remakes. But at least try and do something unique with it. At least The Jungle Book tried something different. They steered into a bit of a darker tone, they toned down the songs, and they made it different from the animated version. The Lion King was not different. They actually did less. This movie was directed by Jon Favreau. How? How did he direct this monstrosity? This just monstrosity of unfeeling, binary code-laden animals that just had no passion to it at all. It was just literally paint by numbers. No emotion, no real stakes because you've seen it all before, literally. And I don't want to talk about it anymore because this movie was dreadful. One last thing before we move on to number 2 and number 1. When I was going to do my reaction to the first Lion King trailer, I was going to do as a joke the original teaser trailer for the Lion King, where it was the opening, da benya mamaniti baba, that whole sequence. And it had the opening of what you are about to witness is the most ambitious animated movie of all time. Something like that at the beginning of it. I was going to do it as a joke, but I didn't think the movie was actually going to do a direct copy, but that's what they did. Except they did less. I don't want to talk about it anymore. Let's just move on. Number 2. Number 2, it's Terminator Dark Fate. For a while, this was my least favorite movie of the year, but there was one more that was somehow worse than this. And let's talk about Terminator Dark Fate and how this movie just completely crapped on the awesome legacy that is T1 and T2. At least with Terminator 3, Salvation, and Genisys, they tried to do something different while building on the legacy that was T1 and T2. They didn't work for various reasons, but at least they made an attempt. With Dark Fate, it was literally like a teenager who constantly crapped on his parents. He was like, I hate you, you're gross. And then literally 5 seconds later is like, when's dinner? That is Terminator Dark Fate in a nutshell. Just a whiny teenager crapping on what came before, but still relying on them for money. Not good. And before any of you say, oh, Ryan just hates this movie because it stars women. To paraphrase a quote from the wise philosopher 50 Cent, this movie has 99 problems and the women ain't one. Awful, awful, awful all around. Awful effects, awful action, awful acting, and a twist near the beginning that just made me lose all my passion to see any Terminator movies for the rest of my life. But oh, there was one. There was one that somehow was even worse than this. Even worse than Dark Fate. And let's rip the last Band-Aid off and let's get it over with. Number 1. What movie could be my least favorite of the year? What horrible piece of cinema did I almost want to walk out of? What movie was so horrible and grand in scope that it was The Rise of Skywalker? I'm not going to keep you in suspense. It was The Rise of Skywalker. This will be quite controversial, and I have a feeling you all are typing out that I'm this, that, and the other thing. But listen to me first. I was on board with Disney buying Star Wars. It was like, okay, companies buy properties all the time. That's just how this stuff works. And then when I saw The Force Awakens, I was like, that's a good start. That leans a little too heavy into A New Hope, but that still works. And while The Last Jedi was a mixed bag, I still largely enjoyed it. But Disney saw that there was a lot of people that didn't like it, and so they went and changed The Rise of Skywalker to basically tap into people's nostalgia, and it was painfully obvious. The thing is that The Rise of Skywalker is technically speaking not a bad movie. It's well shot, well edited. J.J. Abrams made a competent movie. But this movie, The Rise of Skywalker, had no idea if it wanted to capitalize on The Force Awakens or The Last Jedi. They tried to do both, and it didn't work. In a weird way, The Rise of Skywalker kind of crushed my soul a little bit. As a fan of Star Wars my entire life, I have been I've been optimistic and very patient with every new development, book, comic, movie, you name it. I have been patient. I have been steadfast. But not this time. I am tired of Star Wars movies. I'm tired of people crapping on them because The Last Jedi made some different choices. I'm tired of people complaining how The Force Awakens is too much like A New Hope. I am tired of people complaining about diversity and, SJWs and how much Rian Johnson is a man baby and Kathleen Kennedy is the root of all evil. I'm sick of it. I am sick and tired of it. I don't want to hear this anymore. I don't want to engage with it anymore. I want Star Wars to go away, at least in terms of movies, for the next, 5 or 10 years. I know we're getting Mandalorian Season 2 and Kenobi and Cassian Andor shows. That genie's not going back in that bottle. That toothpaste is not going back in that tube. But I do not want to see another Star Wars movie for at least 10 years, because it is too much of a headache. I have my youth, I have my health, and I want to spend these years not worrying about people's opinions on Star Wars on the internet. I just don't. Rise of Skywalker was blatantly nostalgic. It was just basically, here, let's throw some Star Wars on the screen. People will pay us. No concept of a story, or at least an original concept, and just trying to please fans too much. And it all failed miserably. And that, among many other reasons, is why The Rise of Skywalker is my least favorite movie of 2019. That's it. It's over. So, this is going to be an interesting comment section, but what were your least favorite movies of 2019? Leave them in the comment section below. I do read the comments, so please give it to me. And stay tuned for tomorrow when I do my video called Over Under, which is where I talk about movies that I thought were overrated and underrated. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Ryan Cam, and I'll see you in the next one.